Hello and welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Sales. I'm Ashleigh Early. Casey Jones is still out recovering, as is Brian Smith. I'm just burning through co-hosts here. This is not good, people. But I'm excited because today we have Reland Logan joining us. She is the founder of Gray Digital Marketing. She has over a decade of experience in sales and marketing within fashion and creative. If she isn't volunteering with her favorite nonprofits, you can find her having concerts in her car. Reland, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Ashleigh.
So I have to start immediately with having the concerts in your car thing. So who are the current artists that are featuring on the playlists?
Oh man. Okay. Now you're making me have to dig into my YouTube music because it could be so many. It looks like I was singing Janae Aiko earlier this afternoon. I really also like Kiana Lede, and I probably butchered her name, so super sorry if you're ever listening to this, Kiana. Always Mariah Carey, always Whitney Houston, and any Disney song for my little.
Yeah. Forget the little, just Disney. Yes. Those are the songs of our soul, whether we like it or not.
Oh yeah. They're our own soundtracks.
Yeah. It's annoying how often they pop up randomly, whether you've got kids or not. So, I just kind of want to start off by addressing something we talked about before we started, which is you and I both decided right before we went to air, screw it, this is COVID hair. Mm-hmm. We were both trying to do we want to fix it up? No, we're both rocking the full don't care. COVID hair, don't care.
Because forget long hair, don't care. It's COVID hair, don't care.
COVID hair, don't care. Yeah. And it's interesting because you in your profile, so you are mixed race. Mm-hmm. So you have gray hair. If you're not watching video, she has gray hair. You can just tell she's got all the great volume and the curl, and it's just fabulous. I'm just frizz, which is great. I can own the frizz now, but it's different. And it's kind of interesting, this question of, and I know Nikki and I have talked about this before if you listen to the episode with Nikki Ivy, if you haven't, you should, kind of just the nuances of hair itself. It's such a charged subject, and especially if there is, and I'm not sure if this is the politically correct word to use, but ethnicity behind your hair. Mm-hmm. Has that impacted anything? I mean, you mentioned before we were starting, kind of you tend to default to certain styles.
So, it goes back to a lot of things. So I grew up in primarily white neighborhoods, fairly affluent neighborhoods. I truly probably didn't realize racism was honestly a thing outside of small towns in the middle of nowhere America until my 20s. So I grew up with people asking, hey, can I touch your hair? So I was just like, yeah, you can, but that's weird, but sure. I never really thought anything super negative of it. Until time started to progress, and I was like, okay, well, everybody always points out my hair. They never look at me as a person. It's always hair first. So as I learned and I grew up, I started just straightening my hair once hair straighteners got better. Yeah. That's a thing. So when I was a little kid, it was no lie, I don't even know how I can accurately depict this picture for people who are not watching this recording, but it was this cast iron hair straightening tool that my mom had to use because she got tired of paying to take me to the hair salon, that went into this little mini oven thing. And you pretty much had to use an oven mitt to take it out. And it was scalding hot to straighten my hair because I just wanted to be able to do my hair myself. Hindsight, terrible idea. Do not do that to your children. But moving into my early 20s, we started having better hair straighteners that could actually be
ceramic instead of iron, mm-hmm. which would literally I feel like every woman has gone through this phase, especially any woman over about 25. Yep. I feel like we all, unless you have stick straight hair, you had this experience of, I know exactly what you're talking about. I didn't have that one because my mom, I think, tried one of those and actually it burned off part of her hair.
Oh yeah. It was way too hot.
These things get terrifyingly hot. It's almost impossible to use it fully on your head without burning yourself somewhere, mm-hmm. which then affects hair regrow. And it's not, and the smell.
Oh,
that's the thing, is anyone who went through this, this smell. And it's not even burning hair. It's the hair and the metal. and whatever other product is in the air. It's a terrifying memory.
Well, and then think of just all the hair that got stuck in the corner of it. That was just
you're always picking it out like little flakes of hair. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We don't need to relive those moments. We're going to have PTSD before we're done.
Well, I always say it's good to mention if there are any fathers listening.
Yeah. Dads, don't do that.
Don't do this. Don't let other people do it.
Yeah. Save your children. We could have a whole day talking about the crazy things our dads did to our hair as children.
I'll say this. I have to give full credit to my dad here. There was a phase I went through in like second grade where I don't remember why this was a thing in the early 90s, but having really kinked hair was a thing.
Oh, the crip thingy, the crimping tool.
So my parents didn't do that because I don't think we had one, because at that point I think we were never super well off. We were fine, but we weren't ever super well off. We didn't have specialty hair tools. My mom and my dad would sit and braid my hair in tiny little braids. Aww. Hundreds of them, like not down the back of my head like cornrows, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tiny braids, soaked me in the sink, like literally holding me, like moving my head in the sink. And then I slept in it, woke up the next day, then we pull it all out and have like this giant kinky hair thing. And my dad was actually better at braiding than my mother was. So I'd always want my dad to do it.
My dad, once when my mom was out of town, keep in mind, my dad is mixed as well. Well, both my parents are mixed, but my mom's white native and my dad's black white native. So my dad thought he was just going to go like full black dad and put Vaseline in my hair. Yeah. Bad look. Okay. Does not work when your hair's mixed. It took my mom forever to get it out.
I was going to say, how do you even get that out?
You don't put water on it, because that was his next solve.
Sitting here, I'm like, do you use apple cider vinegar? You can't use dish soap, but you can use dish. Like
so funny. God. I was also in the second grade when that went down.
There we go.
So your dad, 1. My dad, 0.
My dad was braiding. It's not that hard. I was more surprised he knew how to braid. And looking back on it, I'm still surprised he knew how to braid. But okay, so let's talk about your parents for a second here, because as you know, and listeners, you know, we've kind of switched the focus of the podcast to be amplifying voices that have historically been marginalized or haven't been heard from as much. You're the first person we've had who's mixed. So I'm curious kind of what impact that's had kind of with one foot in each of these worlds, especially on your business career.
It's fair to say that I'm privileged. That is a very fair statement to make. And I'm not going to pretend like I know what it's like to be 100% Black. I do have different struggles, but I get the struggles from both sides. And that's not going to sit well with some listeners. And you know what? I'm not sorry. So I'm not.
I feel like that's going to be the hashtag for this episode. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. Pretty much solves all of our things we've been talking about. But when we're looking at being mixed, you know, I've gotten microaggressions even in my professional life of sometimes people, especially when my hair's straight, when I'm not covered in self-tanner, congratulations. I'm not as dark as I look on this recording. My eyes are dark green. Straight hair. My natural hair color is like this brown blonde mess. My hair's part wet right now, so you can't tell. And it's very easy for people just to think I'm white. I'm just a really tan white girl.
You're Italian.
Yeah, everything. I get everything. I've like, what are you? Like, are you Middle Eastern? Where are you from? I've had people literally like sit there and grill me until they get to where they think I'm from. And I'm like, yep, no, not from Iran. Sorry.
That's so weird.
I'm from America.
That's so weird that there's that impulse to put you in a box. Like, I don't know what you are, but I must classify you.
All the time.
That's gotta be taxing.
It's exhausting, actually. I mean, There's not a week or a day that goes by where people don't ask me, what are you? And I'm like, American. And they're like, no, but what are you? And I'm like, I'm Black, white, and a native. I'm as American as they come, folks. Like,
I literally got it from all sides.
All sides. Like, don't matter which way you look at it. Like, I'm pretty much just run-of-the-mill American. Families in the military, born in Oklahoma, American. So it's a weird thing to always have to answer. And so when you look at that, like from a professional standpoint, I can always feel the transition when people finally get to put me in their little box. And then once I'm put in that box, I have to work 10 times harder. So even though I might be one of the smarter people in the room, even though, I can build some of the best relationships that any of the companies I've worked for have ever seen, they always put me on a different level the minute they find out that I'm not white. And it's exhausting. I wish I didn't even have to like deal with that aspect of it, but at the same time, at least I can get away with it for a minute. I seriously, I wouldn't even know what to do if that weren't the case. And so like my heart hurts for anybody who has to face it from the point of interviewing. But I've gotten literally demoted for being mixed.
What?
Yeah, you heard me. I was literally demoted for being mixed. And I interviewed my entire interview process. The person who interviewed me did not know what I looked like at all. She was only going off of my current store manager's take on me, my regional manager's take on me, and the fact that my numbers were incredible. And then the day I met her, she looked at me really crazy and she was like, "Oh, you're Reland?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me. Like,
nice
here to run
you.
the world." Yeah, like no big deal. Like, yeah, I'm setting my floor. It's cool. How are you? And she was like a little off put by it. She was also new to her role. And I hate to regionalize people, but she came from West Virginia. And so up to Seattle. So we both had relocated to Seattle. By the time I left, I was one of the very last people of color to leave. And every single other person who worked with me who was of color had weirdly been let go. And then she demoted me for a really like crazy, like just BS reason. And I was like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, you'll support me to go work at any other store, but you won't support me to work here. And all of the things that I've been struggling with, I've told you the solution. And she just wouldn't listen to it at all. But my coworker who worked in another department, who would come to me and ask me for advice on so many things, I pretty much did her job for her. She would take my ideas, run them over to the store manager, tell her all about them, not say that they were mine, and get praised heavily for them. Yep, they were brilliant. They're brilliant coming from somebody who wasn't me. And then one of my assistants got promoted, and she had asked my assistant a really weird question. And my assistant was like, "No, everything I've learned since I started at this company has been from Ray. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her." And so she was always like, you could tell she was always in this battle of, well, Reland does all these things well. How do I get rid of her? It was gross.
Yep, that sounds like the right word. Wow. I mean, how does an experience like that not turn you off of all of it? Or how does that not just defeat your soul?
I'm very positive. It's actually incredibly hard to knock my energy levels down. I ended up leaving that company a year later because I faced something relatively similar right after the fact, like boom, boom. And I was pregnant with my son, and I was just kind of like, I don't need to be on the retail side of sales anymore. And I don't know, you get up and you keep going. And I don't want to, use the term strong, because right now that's had it's been coming to light how degrading that can be for women of color, because then we're like put into this box of we have to be that way all the time, and people use it as an excuse to be hurtful. We have feelings too, but I'm just really resilient and I'm really positive. And I always just say, when one door closes, another one opens, and I'm sure in the fuck not going to sit here and stare at a closed door.
Okay. No, I love it. I love it because it's true. It's there's that sense of, it's okay, this door closed. I'm not just going to sit here and stare at it. So it's what's next. And so you mentioned you've got a son. Mm-hmm. How is being a mother impacted kind of your sales career, other than giving you that final kick in the ass, it sounds like, to get away from that toxic environment?
The same way I think it impacts most moms when it comes to sales. You sell harder, you sell faster, you fail faster, you make more money because your money's not just for you. Now I have an addiction to designer shoes and whatever Lightning McQueen toy my child wants. So, it's a matter of like doing the math. I do a lot of like working backwards. So how much do I need to sell to be able to get the things that I want above my bills? So for Grayson, that looks like, how do we pay for gymnastics? How do we pay for, oh my gosh, he's about to be 4. So basketball, baseball, soccer, all the sports he can finally play.
Not to mention like preschool.
Oh, I won't put him in preschool. That's a different conversation for a different day. I don't believe in it. Yeah, I don't believe in preschool at all. And I'm really grateful. And so I have the luxury of having that mindset because I have family who can watch him. Otherwise, I would be taking my child to preschool kicking and screaming, and I understand that that's the only option for some adults. And so I don't want to like make anybody feel bad about that.
This isn't mom shaming. Yeah. This is you speaking your truth.
Thank you. No, see, moms easily fall into that. We're like, wait a second, I'm not mom shaming you. I'm just saying.
I don't have kids, have dogs, obsessed with my dogs. I have a dear sister who is a super mom. I have cousins who have kids, and I have friends, and they're all every element of the spectrum. And the one thing they have all shared about their experience with me is the mom shaming and the pressure. And it's terrifying to me. Like, in my head, it's like, and this is another reason why I'm not ready for kids. Like, the idea of having a being that is wholly dependent on me is terrifying enough. The judgment from all the other women that I care about is 10 times more terrifying.
I know. And you end up like going on tangents like I just did, where you're like, hold on, let me explain to you that you're doing a great job as a mom. It's just my choice as me as a mom. So yeah. Also, I don't think preschool could handle Grayson at all. So I think I'm doing every preschool teacher a favor.
No, I'm laughing because my cousin, who is as close to a saint as I think you can get, she is a foster parent, and she has 2 adopted children that she's adopted from the system. And she homeschools both of them. And that's one of the reasons she's
a saint. Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the reasons she's given. She's like, I don't think they could handle these 2. Like, they're brilliant and they're adorable and they're super cute. And she's got like thousands and thousands and thousands of Instagram followers. She's actually kind of Instagram famous because of these 2 dang kids and her dogs. It's fascinating, and it's interesting too. And I think, look, I'm going to tie this back to race. Watch this. And it's interesting that judgment that comes from being a mom, I feel like it's also present in a lot of ways within that bucketing that you experience because you are mixed race. It's, if I can bucket you in the white bucket, the expectations are this. If I can bucket you in the black bucket, the expectations are this. If I bucket you in the native bucket, I don't think anyone even knows what that bucket looks like. In a lot of cases.
For the curveball?
Please.
Grayson's half Asian.
That's got to be a gorgeous kid.
He's too pretty.
I see it.
Yeah, I could. Let me see if I could share my phone screen real quick.
We'll do video for that, and if Rayland's willing, we'll see about adding a picture of Grayson to the show notes.
Yeah,
for the cuteness.
We can, because he's he's like the most beautiful child, and it's not fair at all. Yeah. So prep yourself for the world's best hair, because we literally just trim his hair. He has like this long hair that like perfectly has bounce and never gets split ends. And okay,
I hate a 4-year-old. Great.
Yeah, you do. You should be very jealous.
I'm jealous of a 4-year-old's hair. That's fantastic. All right. So you've kind of gone through this. So let's kind of take a step back and go through kind of a little bit more of your sales journey. So obviously kind of you started out like a lot of salespeople in retail, you know, and then kind of where did you go from there, which once you decided that wasn't kind of the path for you anymore?
I actually ended up at a bank for a hot second. And then I went back into retail for a minute. I was a regional merchandising manager for Michael Kors.
Explains the designer addiction.
I have a designer addiction. And then after I left Michael Kors, I was actually recruited to go into recruiting. So I did business development for staffing. And there, you know what? Sometimes you get the worst moments of feeling like you have to elevate your game by people who are also not white.
How so?
So my boss at that time, she had mixed daughters, and she was Lebanese. And to this day, because I have friends who still are there, to this day, some of their best accounts are the ones that I brought in. But one day I just made her mad, and she was like, nope, you're gone. And I was like, what? I'm literally the top performing person here. And she made up some excuse about my numbers. And I was like, all of our numbers are posted for everyone to see. Like, so I don't understand. And then she was like, no, it's your numbers. Because she pulled that stunt though. I mean, granted, we're getting closer to present day. A bunch of people quit.
Well, that's gotta be a good feeling.
Yeah. They were like, she is what keeps us all sane in this office because everybody's happy. And they felt that it was unfair. And so like 2 or 3 people left like within the week. And I was like, ouch. But, you know, I've always found it funny because it's like, okay, well, why are you holding me to a higher standard than the person next to me? I haven't even been here that long. Like, you're still teaching me, and you're expecting me to do more than they're doing, and I'm pulling more of the weight.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's this idea of this is a concept I became familiar with in terms of relationships, but it's emotional labor. Mm-hmm. And it's stunning to me how many of these interviews we've done and how every single person has brought up the additional emotional labor that's involved in just being yourself, in terms of taking on the emotional label of making sure that the other people in your work environment are comfortable, are happy. And I'll say it on a personal level, I was not aware of this, and that's embarrassing. And if I wasn't aware of it, I'm terrified to think what a lot of other leaders their level of awareness for this stuff is.
Well, you know, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but like if we ever have an opinion as a Black woman, you're considered angry. And it's like, well, why am I angry? I'm not angry. I'm just bringing up a point. Like, this is wrong. But if, you know, Bethany over there in the back left cubicle says something, you'd find a way to bend over backwards to make it happen. So it's crazy that you can even, like, people can even get away with some of the things that they share, but to be everybody's cheerleader. And granted, I coach cheer. I'm a natural cheerleader. Literally. But to be somebody's cheerleader constantly, to like it starts not taking just an emotional labor, it starts taking a toll on your body. So that year in that job, I ended up in the hospital for 4 days because my kidneys were almost about to fail. And I didn't notice a single sign. Like, no lie. I just kept trucking through, going to work with fevers, just being like, oh, it just must be hot because I don't have air conditioning, like Oregon life, whatever. Like kept going, get through my son's birthday. And then I was like, oh, I have this awful cough. Like, must be like late fall or start of fall allergies. Like all the excuses that you get to make when you aren't white. Like if I was white, I'd be like, I don't feel good. Like, please give me time. Like, I feel like I have to show up every single day. And so I literally remember I went to work that day. I picked up my son, took him to my mom's and said, hey mom, I'm going to run to urgent care and go get some cough syrup. Cause I had this like awful cough. I was dropping weight too. Like you can't believe, just dropping it. And I go into the doctor's and I don't leave for 4 days from a cough just because I happen to have made the statement, my side hurts. And so they wanted to check something else. And then they're like, hey, both your kidneys are not doing so hot. Like we have to check you in. So like, you don't just like, if you can't even get the emotional labor under control, or you feel like you have to work 10 times harder than just to meet your peers, like that also takes a toll on your body. And I'm pretty sure any mom who's in like a male dominated space is going to share with you, like, I feel like I have to already work like 1,000 times harder and be outside of myself. And then add on a layer of not being white or like white adjacent if you're me. And it's very easy to like lose sight of you.
It's that's really upsetting to me in a lot of ways, and least of which because a lot of my family is in the medical profession. A lot. I'm kind of the weirdo because I'm not.
Me too. I'm not a lawyer or a doctor.
Yeah, everyone in my family is doctors and nurses. My mom's an RN. All of my aunts have been nurses. All my uncles are doctors and are doctors and dentists. 3 of my cousins are nurses. Whole thing. My sister's literally, while raising 2 children, going back to school to get her master's in marriage and family counseling. I was the dorm nurse in college. Like people would come to me like, I've got a headache. Does your neck hurt? No. Okay, here's the Tylenol. You know, because they were too lazy to go down to the student healthcare center, and I was sent to school
because I was the same way. Same way.
Sent to school with the full med kit that you knew how to deploy for yourself, but no one else knew what it was. Yeah, that was fun. I have a vivid memory of explaining what Ipecac was to a bunch of people on my floor. Luckily, I didn't have any because I know one of the guys would have stolen it and made himself throw up.
Oh man!
College. But trying to explain, like, wait, there's a thing you can make yourself throw up. Yeah, it's for like poison, but you can't use it on all poisons because it can burn on the way back up. And bunch of guys just completely fascinated by this idea. I was like, how do you not know this stuff? But I had a conversation with my cousin a few weeks ago. And he's a baby nurse. He just graduated. He just got his nursing credential. And he did his kind of nursing residency, final training. I don't know how that system works. And he shared some stories on social media, basically talking about the disparity in care that he saw. And he was in a very white area between what white women got and what Black women got. And he shared a few stories, one in particular around, a slight trigger warning, around a woman who got a D&C with no sedation or pain medication. And
kidding me?
No. I horrified on a number of different levels, on pretty much every possible level. The woman came in and she was having a miscarriage. And my poor cousin witnessed this as like a baby nurse, didn't feel empowered to speak up. And he is a white guy because he was trainee nurse. He didn't know. And he's like, the one thing I took away from that is they would never have tried that if you were in the situation.
No.
it terrifies me. And you see her story, you hear study after study that says that pain is assessed differently. We know pain is assessed differently in women. It's compounded if they're any sort of woman of color. Men of color, same thing. It's terrifying. So I hear this story about you're taking on this additional emotional labor, which then translates into physical labor, which then translates into illness. And then the system's not even set up to take that illness seriously. Like I hear your story and I think, oh God, you could have died so easily.
Oh, well, I could share my story about pregnancy if you really want another turn for the worst. I somehow just really find my niche is finding ways to almost die. Not intentionally.
Laugh at that, but
it's true though. It's so true. If my mom wasn't in the room when I was having Grayson, I can't promise we'd be having this conversation, because she used to be a labor and delivery nurse, and she was watching both mine and Grayson's like heart rates start plummeting. I had blacked out. I have a crazy pain tolerance, like incredible. Like I have endometriosis. I've just grown up being like, I remember at the very beginning of labor, because I had to be induced, the nurse runs in, she's like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, your vitals went up like you're puking or pushing. And I was like, nope, just feels like a cramp. Like this is what my period feels like on a regular.
I was going to say, if anyone who doesn't know what endometriosis is, it's take period pain and times it by about 10. I actually know someone who ended up having a hysterectomy, ovarianectomy, because the endometriosis got so bad it looked like cancer on scans.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Okay, so literally now what I just told everybody is it feels like you're giving birth. That's essentially what it feels like. Monthly. It's terrible. Well, I just looked at her like she was crazy and asked for Tylenol. She asked if I wanted an epidural, and I was like, no, I'll take some Tylenol to make you feel better. Those were my exact words, to make you feel better. I was like, because I'm cool.
Okay, so you're superhuman and have no pain tolerance.
I felt my entire C-section for the most part. The medicine didn't kick in until later. Yeah. So they almost killed me, and that is what it's like to be a Black woman giving birth in America. And if you don't believe me, go listen to Serena Williams tell it.
Yeah, or any number of the thousands and millions of other women. Like this. Okay.
So yes, sales really does take a toll on your body when you're taking on everybody's baggage and your own.
And hitting a quota.
Because woof. You guys, I literally took a sales call to seal a deal from my emergency room gurney during the whole kidney thing. And then they loved me so much. They're like, do not call us. Do not talk to us until you're back. We will call somebody at your office.
And that's an interesting thing for me, because I want to praise you and say how badass you are. And a part of me wants to smack you upside the head, because we hear this with sales leaders all the time. Sales hours or whatever it takes to get it done, and praise people who do whatever and push through the pain. It's like, okay, I get it. I understand hard work. I understand pushing through and making it happen. And you hear stories about people sneaking away on Christmas Eve, take calls for the bathroom to try and get deals done before end of year. I've done several of these things. The older I get, the more pissed off I get when I hear stories like that, because the business did not need that deal. Nope. The business needs you to not be dead, to be functioning at full capacity. And if you're constantly doing these things that stretch you beyond your physical or mental limits, you're functioning at a reduced capacity. And yet we go out there and we, as sales leaders and as a sales community, continue to glorify these acts of almost self-destruction in the name of a single deal, in the name of hitting quota for one quarter. It's incredible how short-sighted some of this stuff is. And we've all fallen victim to it because we see the nice shiny object and we really want to get the nice shiny object, if for no other reason than for ourselves, or I hate to say at worst, because this is a good motivation, but or at worst because you've got people depending on you. Mm-hmm. I have to do this because my son needs this, because my husband needs this, because my life needs this. And actual needs, not like Louis Vuitton needs, like food,
like real
medicine.
ones, like food, electricity, a house.
Yeah.
Those things.
Yeah, all those things. And so we do these crazy big risk, big reward, but like I said, I hear these stories and I'm like, that's great. I'm proud of you for doing that. And I want to smack you upside the head. I literally lectured someone earlier this week about, he has a tendency of, he doesn't turn off his phone, and his boss is in Australia, and his boss will text him at 1 to 2 a.m. his time with no expectation of this person responding. Just, text him when he sees it. This guy will wake up and respond. And his boss has chewed him out for it. I've now chewed him out for it. It's like, no, turn off your phone and sleep.
Now that I'm older, that's one of the main reasons why I own my own business, because I'm sick and tired of working on other people's time. Like, why? If I could get it done better at 10 o'clock at night, then let me do it at 10 o'clock at night. Like, I'm not here to be run ragged. I'm not going to miss Grayson's life to appease that one deal.
Yeah. And that's not good for the business either. Mm-mm. To do that stuff. So that's kind of interesting. As you mentioned, like starting your own business and stuff like that. Have you noticed any of those additional kind of microaggressions or box putting or heightened expectations since you started your own business?
No. And here's why. Because I got lucky in really weird ways. I lost my job because of COVID. Like, the only single mom in that office, the only Black person in that office, whatever. Can't get a hold of unemployment whatsoever. So I was like, okay, well, you know what? Hand me lemons. I say, pass me the sugar. So I started my own business. I was going to do it anyways. I was just going to do it more from like a freelance perspective until I made enough to say, peace out. They won the peace out battle. So I just started it. Okay. That was back in April, March-ish, right before my 30th birthday. COVID birthdays. Sorry to everyone who has had experienced this. It's the worst. Moving into, getting things off the ground, building my website. I have a lot of crazy skills. I get bored, and so I learn how to do things. So I've gone to school for web design. I've done all these things. I'm building my business, and then all of the Black Lives Matter protests happen, and everybody has just been wanting so much to amplify Black voices that helped amplify my business too. And these horrible things keep happening. And by no means am I going out of my way to be like, let me capitalize on these horrible things, because it's not in my nature. I think I spent like the entire week after it all went down crying and getting frustrated because I became everybody's DEI person. Like, in what world does my background say, let me teach you about diversity, equity, and inclusion? Nothing. But so many more people wanted to come and be helpful that I don't think I would have had these things not happened. So I hate the fact that this is why, but would I be remotely successful if it hadn't have happened as fast? Probably not. And if you go on my Instagram page, you will notice you never see a picture of me up until you read my post about it being a Black-owned business, but you can also read how angry and upset I am, because I was like, this is ridiculous. Enough is enough. I've had it. And so one of the things I was doing for my business right before that had happened was if somebody refers a business to me, I would give $200, and that business signed on. I would give $200 to any small business or boutique in the area to help our small businesses, but also to help people who, maybe they lost their job and they haven't been able to go to a restaurant or go shopping. So it was kind of like a win-win for everybody, like a win for my business, a win for the business that's getting their advertising done, a win for the person who referred them, a win for that small business they choose to go spend that money at. So I'm running the campaign for that. And then all this happens and I just and I'm still angry. Like the anger has not subsided. But in that anger, I finally was like, F it. If you're gonna do this and you tell me and I can verify that it is a Black owned business that you want to go spend that money at, you can have $500. Like I don't care at this point. I want everybody to not just do all this performative action bullshit. Allyship, that's my trigger. And then I want people to start spending their money there. You need to start voting with your damn dollar. You'll notice historically, most Black groups, they do not lobby at Congress. They don't have the money to lobby for Congress. We wonder why the NRA has their damn clutches in every fucking thing. Well, it's because they have money to throw at it. So if Black people had the money to throw at the government and effectively back people to run for office, things would probably start changing a whole hell of a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Register to vote, people, please.
Please.
Please. Okay, that there's a lot there. And
I'll let you unpack that. Sorry.
No, it's honestly, I'm sitting, I'm stealing that idea. I think I think I'm stealing this idea from my own business. If anyone wants to hire Ashleigh Early LLC, I'll match what you're doing. I'll do $500 to a local Black owned business. Done.
Done. Easy peasy.
Easy. And you're right. It's voting with your wallet. It's taking that extra step to figure out what is a Black owned business, going through all these sort of things. Like even we did the webinar recently with Nikki Ivy on selling while Black, and 100% of the sponsorships went to a charity that the panel was familiar with, specifically focused on a community they wanted to support. There are easy ways to not be performative. So let's actually, let's do this. We'll dive into this quick. How can you, as someone who is of this community, tell when someone is being performative and when someone isn't?
You said quickly.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Quickish, but don't worry about it. Just answer
quickish. So funny. I answered a very similar question. I was speaking on a panel for the American Marketing Association on DEI. Quick plug. I'm the VP of programming for AMA PDX. So speaking on our panel, and it goes down to a gut feeling. Like we can tell when you're being disingenuous. So I don't think that anybody is giving you a fucking gold star cookie if you post something on Instagram. Like we're not going to. All right? We're tired. We're exhausted. We're not Oprah, okay? You get a gold star. You get a gold star. You get a gold star. No. All right? Not happening. So we know when things are being performative. And here's a prime example. We just had 4th of July.
Yeah.
And people, there were Black families who celebrated 4th of July. I did. There are Black families who chose not to celebrate 4th of July because they think it's a lie. They're in their damn rights to do so. But what is performative is when you post something about, I'm not celebrating 4th of July this year because of white supremacy and blah, 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 blah. And then you turn around and your next post is barbecuing with sparklers.
You just said you're not good.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to call BS. And if you're so gung-ho on not sticking it to the man and being there for Black Lives Matter and not celebrating 4th of July, then maybe you should also stop posting on fucking Facebook and Instagram when the owner of Facebook won't do anything about it.
Sorry, I'm so proud of myself. I got off Facebook about 8 years ago. I have it because I just want to make sure nobody else steals it or sets one up as not me. I never post on it. I don't do anything except for my stupid neighborhood has their group on there. So I will go and check my neighborhood stuff. But at the same time, and then I've got everyone's contact information, I still text them. I'm not putting anything in that.
I just think it's so funny. I'm like, it's my business. I have to use it. Like, I know why, but personally, I'm just kind of like, meh, it's whatever. But like, if you're going to be so gung-ho and you're going to protest 4th of July, like maybe you should just get off of Facebook and Instagram and just do it. Don't have to tell us about it.
And I think that's part of it. It's the telling. Mm-hmm. And I had a couple interesting conversations kind of when this all started, because personally, and you guys are going to hear an episode at some point that we recorded with Lauren Bailey, who is amazing, LB. And you'll hear that this was a raw episode because I was in the middle of figuring out how vocal I wanted to be on this stuff. And there's this great moment where Lauren, LB, literally calls her. She's like, Ashleigh, you seem like you're really nervous. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do about this, because I didn't want to go on LinkedIn or go on the pod or anywhere else and be like, look at all the stuff I'm doing to educate myself and make things better. That just felt so disingenuous. It felt like it almost undermined what I was trying to do, which was A, be a little bit quieter than normal so that people like you could rise. But B, it's like, it's nobody's business what I'm doing as long as I'm doing it. But then it came down to, it's important for those who, and I loved, you guys probably heard, did a really great episode with Blair Hervey. And this idea, she's delightful. But we were talking about this idea of passing the baton. Like it's white people's turn. It's our turn to pass the baton. The only way that that's going to happen is if we're actively saying, passes the baton. We're ready to vote with our wallets. We're ready to go marching. We're ready to link arms and stand in front, because the cops are going to think twice before taking me down. Mm-hmm. Sucks, but it's true. But so that's what it came down to for me. But the performative side of it's a lot harder, I think, when you're dealing with companies too, because there might be individuals at the company who are really great about it, maybe even leadership. But then you go down into, once you've got a lot of people, and it gets complicated fast.
It's convoluted, but here's my thing for all of our performative polys in the world. Forget positive poly. She left the building. We got performative poly. Just be interested, not interesting. Like, it's just, I said this in one panel I was on, I'll say it again, like, be interested in this. Like you said, you're interested. You're trying to figure it out. You're not telling everybody like, hey, everybody, I'm reading White Fragility this week. Like, nobody fucking cares what you're reading. Yeah. Like, maybe they do, but we care more about how you apply it. And your actions speak louder than your words and your pictures and your posts. Right?
Yeah. I mean, social media is tailored enough to begin with.
Yeah. Like, just do us a solid and be interested, not interesting. And I think we've kind of moved past this, but like, let us speak on platforms like this. Let us share our stories when we're ready to share our stories, but stop calling us and asking us how we're doing. Okay? Because clearly we're all doing pretty shitty.
And I think that's something else I've kind of started to operate. And I think a lot of people started to operate is just kind of this assumption of, you're carrying a lot, you're dealing with a lot. Like, just rather than checking like, oh, how is this impacting you? And I think that's something, and okay, I'll ask this, like, just to ask the question. I know the answer. So this is me asking it as a non-sensitive person. Well, you didn't know George Floyd. Well, you don't know Breonna Taylor. You aren't in those cities. How is this affecting you?
Well, fun fact, I've been to both of those cities because I've lived in them. So go jump in a lake. Second, go take a jump in a cold lake.
Yeah, long walk off a short pier. Have fun.
But, no, I don't have to know them. I know people like them. I know my brothers. I know my dad. I know my uncles. I know how to be afraid every single day that something's going to happen to them. I have to tell my little sister, whose hair's cut like super short, hey, I know you're walking to the corner store. It's dark. Please don't wear your hood. It's a primarily white neighborhood. Like, I have to be terrified that my brother's going to go play basketball and then one day not come back. Because even though he's also white passing, he has dreads. So he's tall, he has dreads, first instinct, probably black. I have one brother who is all of me and then half Hawaiian. And, you know, it's just one, and he has a mouth on him. He pops off and I can't promise that somebody's not going to pop back. And, you know, it's things like my dad's a judge, but is the word judge tattooed on this man's forehead? No. And so you never know what's going to happen to him just walking around. And I mean, my own boyfriend's mixed. Like, there's complications in that space too. So no, I don't need to know these people. I just need to know that I know people who are like them. And that it could happen to any of us at any time, because it certainly happens way too often. And those are just the names you know right now. But do you remember any of the ones from the past? What about the ones what about the ones that were in a hashtag past their like little city or town? I don't need to know George Floyd. I don't need to know George Floyd's family. I just need to know that I know somebody who's just like them, who could be doing something entirely innocent, like having a blinker out, and it could happen to them. Hell, it could happen to me. So fuck you, person. That's how I feel about that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. And yes, I think one of the hard things is you shouldn't have to answer that question. I hope no one ever listening to this would ever think of asking that question.
Oh, somebody's thought it. They're not going to say it.
No, but at the same time, I say thank you for responding, because even though I would never normally have asked that question, it's powerful to see that, just the glimpse of what it's like, and the power of that fear. And that's not new. That's 30 years of that. And for your parents, even longer. And we think the system's set up in such a way that that people can come in and put that aside and hit the same numbers of people who don't have to deal with that.
That's not going to be realistic. I mean, being mixed, almost every mixed person I know has a racist aunt, uncle, or fill in the blank here, but they love you. Yeah.
It's the classic kind of that's the same person who says, I have a black friend.
Mm-hmm.
My black friend said this. So
why did you have to describe your friend?
Yeah.
Why can't they just be your friend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Putting people in boxes unnecessarily. All right. This has been intense and amazing. And thank you for bringing all of yourself to this episode. This has been so much fun. And now, as we wrap things up, as we do every episode, we're going to move to the lightning round, which is just a series of questions we ask everyone who comes on the podcast, designed to be a little bit lighthearted, a little bit fun, and just end with a mixture of kind of really good stuff as well as just some fun things to have fun with. So, starting off, what's your morning routine?
I don't have a strategic morning routine like most people. I just get up and pray to God I can make everything happen. And if my son's with me, turn on Lightning McQueen, so maybe I could feed him breakfast.
That sounds great. I always appreciate people come on and they don't have a morning routine, because I don't. And then you have people come on like Morgan and Casey who are like, okay, so I do this for 5 minutes, then I do this for 10 minutes, and then I take 15 minutes doing this, and then I go for a run. And I'm like, I try to make coffee in the first hour.
I brush my teeth.
Yeah. It's that sort of stuff. So it's great to hear I'm not the only one who cannot do mornings. All right. Pick one person who's had a significant impact on your career.
Her name's Angie, and she was a store manager at Nordstrom. All right. And she was incredible.
Why was she incredible?
She was incredible because she was the very first person to be like, Reland can do it. And then turned me into like a powerhouse of a salesperson, a person who teaches sales, just like she turned me into the businesswoman I am today. No lie.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right. What's your pump up song?
Oh man. I wish somebody would have given me a warning this was a thing. You know what? Lately it has been Champion by Carrie Underwood. There you go.
I like
It's
it.
badass.
Soon to be added to the Other Side of Sales Spotify playlist. All right. What's one thing you wish you'd learned earlier?
I wish I learned earlier how to close faster and just get to the damn point.
Fair enough. What's your favorite sales book?
My favorite sales book? Oh my goodness. I don't think I have a favorite sales book. I would say this helps in sales is Many People Communicate, Few Connect by, what is his name? Look up that book and then we can fill it in later.
Link in the show notes.
Yep.
All right. What's one way someone could have been a better ally to you?
I think anybody just stepping up and saying, hey, don't do that would have been probably mind-blowing. If somebody just stepped in for me and said, you can't say that. Knock it off.
What's one way you're working to be a better ally for others?
Sharing my story as a mixed person. I think traditionally we're all very good at minimizing ourselves because we're never Black enough, we're never white enough, we're never fill in the blank enough. And so I think I'm in a place where I can share those stories and also advocate for us.
I love that. All right. And last but not least, what's your guilty pleasure at the end of a bad day?
Ooh, that would be locking myself in the car and driving and singing to myself incredibly loudly. Not kidding. It's like a thing.
No, hand on heart, feel you. Done that. Definitely had a few points where it's like, I'm just going to go by myself and scream and rage in my car.
I'm going to take the long route, long way home.
Yep. I love it. All right. Reland, thank you so much for being on here. It's been so much fun. How can people get a hold of you? How can people find you?
You can find me at Gray Digital and then Mktg for marketing. You can find me there. That's also graydigitalmktg.com. You can also find me there. And then we'll be working on a podcast sharing people's stories as well. So
that's awesome. And it's Gray, Gray.
AY, yes. Like Grayson, my baby.
There. Oh, that's sweet. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening to another episode of The Other Side of Sales. If you've enjoyed the show, please feel free to keep the conversation going online. Contact Reland. Hit us up on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram at Other Side of Sales. You can also please actually do us a favor and like, subscribe, and review on your podcast catcher of choice, or leave a comment if you happen to watch us on YouTube to see our COVID hair. And with that, thank you so much for listening. Reland, thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.
Talk to you soon.